Am I live? Am I streaming? I'm streaming out. I'm streaming to the internet. The public can hear my voice and know I'm very dumb. All right. Well, now that it's up, perfect time for me to declare I'm going to get some water. Thank you. I'll be back. Let me explain. This is very confusing. Nothing about this is clear. I don't know who wants what is good, what is bad. I can't figure it out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you my uninformed moron opinion, and then we're going to do a deeper dive into it because I was looking at some of this and I was just very confused. So before even like really thinking about this, all I can say is that I think Uber and Lyft drivers are independent contractors. They have all the hallmarks, okay? They don't really have like an employment contract where they're told this is what you have to do, this is what you are going to do. They're not really told that much. It's not like they're working for something like a Walmart or anything like that where it's at will and the place they work for is like, here's your schedule, you better be in on time. It's not like that. It is they choose their days, they choose their hours, they choose their jobs, and that's just how it is. So, excuse me. I don't know where that's coming from, but I need to get it out of my system. Anyways, these app-based platforms, okay, they are providing people with independent contract work. And I don't know that like I guess what people are trying to get is like if they do it enough where they put enough hours into it that it's a full-time job that they deserve like benefits. I'm assuming that's where it's going. But anyways, proposition this was in 2020, which is very weird. Um very weird that it's coming up in the news now. So, uh, Proposition 22, app-based drivers Contractors and Labor Policies Initiative. It was approved. Voters said yes. Okay, so wasn't it? I think this one says it. I think it's this one where it said 58%. I don't know. I read somewhere in here. Should not use my numpad. There we go. Californians decisively determined the future of ride hailing and delivery apps as 58% of voters said that drivers are independent contractors rather than employees. So yeah, that makes sense. Cuz here's the thing. I don't think it should be a universal every person that drives for this company is an independent contractor. I think you could potentially get an employment contract with uh Uber, and I think that should be honored as regular employment. You become an employee for that company. Same thing with Lyft, You become an employee for Uber or Lyft by like applying to become an employee. But when you just go over here and you become a driver or delivery driver, it's like, okay, well, here we are. We're gonna do this, and this should make you an independent contractor. And this is what you get with it. They promote. They tell you what you get: 24/7 support. Probably need it because you're gonna be driving all day and all through the night if you're doing this. Well, you get to choose what you want to drive and everything. So that's all good. You're protected by Uber's auto insurance in case of an accident. You get paid up to 5 times in a single day. You can instantly cash out. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That sounds very convenient. And you can plan out your day. You can look at, you probably have like a trend view. And then, you just you have an emergency button if you need it. So there we go. We have a lot of things going on here, and in Quebec, you can make $700 after 100 trips. Unfortunately, it's Canadian funny money, so it's not a lot. But I'm pretty sure other places you can make more. So, anyways, we're back to this. Recently, on August 20th, 2021, Judge Frank Rosick ruled that 2 sections were unconstitutional and that the measure as a whole was unenforceable. So, what was the ruling? Does it say? So it's California's constitution is what it's looking like. It's not the US Constitution, it's California's constitution. Section 4 of Article 14 grants the legislature plenary power. I going to search Google for this. Define this. Unqualified absolute. Okay. So absolute power ultimated by any provision of the Constitution to establish and enforce a complete system of workers' compensation. Proposition 22, according to the petitioners, removed app-based drivers from the state's system of workers' compensation, and therefore the legislature's constitutional power has been limited to extend workers' compensation benefits to app drivers. So, trying to figure out what that means exactly, because it's like word soup to me. It sounds like the Constitution of California allows someone in the legislature to determine what workers' compensation is. So it's like California's going to have a state minimum wage rather than the federal minimum wage, stuff like that. That's part of it. And then Proposition 22 by having the drivers be independent contractors takes them out of this uh constitutional system limiting legislative power over them. Section 8 Article 2, which is at the bottom of this section. Single subject rule, meaning an initiative cannot embrace more than one subject. The provision of Proposition 22's two odd amendments were not substantively addressed in the measure and grossly deceived voters who were not told they were voting to prevent the legislature from granting the drivers collective bargaining rights or to preclude the legislature from providing incentives for companies to give app-based drivers more than the minimum wages and benefits provided by Prop 22. So, we're over here. Does it say what Prop 22 fully said? All right. Classifies them. Okay, that's the full text. Okay. Classifies rideshare drivers as independent contractors unless the company sets drivers' hours, requires acceptance of specific ride and delivery requests, or restricts working for other companies. So, if Uber says you can't work for Lyft and us at the same time, then you become an employee of Uber. That's what it is. That's what they're saying. Once you start having the non-competes, once you start having all these things going on, that's when you're an employee, not when you can just at will go, well, I want to drive for Lyft today because they're paying better or whatever, Or I want to drive for Uber Eats today. I don't want to deal with people. I just want to deliver McDonald's to the suburb. That kind of thing. So there we go. We figured that out. Not covered by various employee state laws, including minimum wage, overtime, unemployment insurance, and workers' compensation. Like, I guess, well, you are covered by their insurance, but that the one thing that I would say should be covered by the company that you're an independent contractor for, especially if you're doing a driving job, is they should have something in place for if you get injured while working for them. There should be something in place. And Uber, at the very least I've seen here, Uber does have auto insurance. So hopefully, like, I clicked the wrong one. But hopefully, they would have a health insurance thing or something where if someone got injured, then they could cover it. So, and I don't know who signed this at the top, but I'm going to hunt them down because that is unacceptable. That is my handwriting. You're not allowed to have that too. They stole it from me. Okay. There's a lot here. I'm gonna just stay with the okay, minor increases to state income tax paid by rideshare and delivery company drivers and investors. Oh man, that's terrible. That's the end of the world. Okay, restricts certain local regulation of app-based drivers, criminalizes impersonation, which is fine. Uh okay. Contractor drivers would be entitled to other compensation, including minimum earnings, healthcare subsidies, and vehicle insurance. Well, if you have a minimum earnings set out, then that's the same thing as a minimum wage. You're not like an hourly employee here. And when you're driving, it's probably best to do a per mile uh calculation, something like that. So, okay, there's more here. God, I can't read this right because my glasses are all foggy. Uh okay, so it enacts specific policies to these. Okay, this is all starting to make sense now. But none of this makes sense right here. I'm looking at this all and it's like limiting drivers from working no more than 12 hours. Um you have to be logged off for 6 hours to sleep. Uh if you have 25 hours per week during a calendar quarter, you have to have a healthcare subsidy. Okay. Uh all right. Okay. So the hours per week is not going into the calculation of what they're getting paid. It's going into the calculation of whether or not they get healthcare benefits from the company they are contracting for. So actually, that all makes sense and that all just sounds really good. It just seems like what's happening is wait, where'd it go? Where'd it go? It's this one. There we go. Oh. I feel dumb. Anyways, so the argument is just, well, yeah, you made an initiative that gives employees benefits, but it's not the state's benefits. And if we keep this on the books, it might fall behind what the state is doing, or it might like make people want to have more of these initiatives for their own industry. So yeah, it's probably just so it does sound like it does violate California's constitution. Uh but it also seems like it was a good thing for the drivers so that while still being classified as independent contractors, which they are at least getting benefits and stuff. That's I guess that's fine. I can't really find anything wrong with that. Like the libertarian part of me is like, well, I don't want the government forcing it, but I mean, it's a evil megacorp anyways that the government is forcing the hand of. I just know that like it probably just causes issues because if you try to start your own ride share thing, if you try to start your own app and your own company, you're just gonna get fucked over because now the government's in charge of how you pay your employees and what benefits you have to give them. And it's like, well, they're independent contractors. They knew what they were signing up for. But I think Uber is fine with this, and Uber is probably a terrible company to contract for because they're actively seeking to replace all their humans anyways. And if you didn't know that, you should. So, anyways, we're going to this store. California voters sided with Uber, denying drivers benefits by classifying them as contractors. Now, going back to this, we do have what we see here. See, it does have benefits that are outlined. Payments for the difference between a worker's net earning, excluding tips, and net earnings floor based on a 120% of the minimum wage. So what they're actually saying is that, now I don't know if this is the state or federal minimum wage. I'm going to assume it's the state minimum wage. We could probably actually Google that right now. So we're going to go to the minimum. Oh my gosh, by the way, someone mentioned like typing the word minimum. It's very satisfying. Oh, because you go I minimum. It's a very satisfying feeling. I don't know why I typed E. The minimum wage in California is $14 an hour. So we are going to do this. We're going to go 14 times 1.20. And we get a rate of $16.18 per hour is their minimum wage that they're proposing in that bill. And if it goes up, it will always be a little bit more than the minimum. So it's so if we're going to go pie in the sky here. We're going to say, let's say California goes crazy and they say our workers get a $20 minimum wage. That's what you get. You get $24 per hour engaged. Plus 30 cents. That is your minimum per hour. That is what they're saying, I believe. Or maybe adjusted for inflation after 2021 per engaged mile. Yeah, so it's basically saying if you have a lot of, like, if you're getting lowballed for whatever reason, they're gonna not lowball you. So if you have like a bunch of trips and you have a low mileage amount, but you did a bunch of trips and you worked for a very long time during the day, they're just saying, okay, we're gonna make sure that you got 120% of the minimum wage. So if the minimum wage became $20 an hour, you'd get 24. So they don't want you just having minimum wage employment. They want you having slightly more. So So like, so what they're basically saying, like, if it's the federal one, let's see what happens if I do the federal minimum wage. Do 7.5. You're gonna get $8.70 an hour. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Oof. That don't feel too good. Yeah, so I hope that if they tried to spread that out, they would say like they would make it clearer. I don't know. I would just want it to be like I'm just gonna say I would like it to be for independent contract work, I would like it to be $10 per hour, but it's also gonna be by mile, so I don't know what the by mile rate would be. If you're on a highway and go 75 miles an hour, uh, you're dividing 10 by 75 actually. So that's what you'd get. You'd get 13 cents a mile. So here's what I want. I want a quarter per mile. And if I travel 100 miles, I get $25. And I want my gas to be covered. So I don't know. Maybe a quarter per mile is lowballing it. I want $1 per mile, so nah, I'll be nice. I want 50 cents per mile, which will be $50. I knew that. I don't know why I typed it in, but see, it'll be $50 per 100 miles, and then I want my gas covered on top of that. That's what I'd want. Anyways, back to this. As you can see, this is bad because the voters sided with the mega corporation because despite it being a mega corporation, the classification of independent contractor is an accurate one. So, decisively determine the future of ride-hailing delivery apps, as 58% of voters said drivers should be classified as independent contractors rather than employees, according to results in a statewide election on Wednesday. This is from 2020. All right, this is a really old one. The gig companies defeated legislation to make drivers employees. Excuse me. After running a record $200 million campaign to deny workers employment. Like, I understand exactly why they're playing devil's advocate. I can explain this. If your entire company is based on having all these independent contractors that you pay to drive people from point A to point B that are less expensive than taxis, and suddenly you're faced with the prospect of every single person that you've that you have on your app wants to become an employee, you're left with a pretty daunting task of having to basically say like, well, a lot of you aren't gonna be employed by us. There's too many of you. You have to you have to tell people the bad news. They can't do it. So, both sides treated it like an existential battle. Labor advocates said it was about the precariousness of a growing economic class of workers. For corporate interest, it was about the viability of the gig economy business model, which is yet to prove profitable despite raising billions from venture capitalists and shareholders. The measure was holding support with 99% of precincts reporting that at least partial results to the California Secretary of State. The industry experts said its passage, with the support of a clear majority in a deep blue state, had the potential to kick off similar efforts in labor-friendly locations to codify the gig economy's independent contractor model in law. Well, that's the whole thing about the gig economy. You are an independent contractor. Like I can't help you there. You're just an independent contractor. You've asked for this. An early Uber investors said the pandemic increased voter sensitivity to rising prices. That's true. Beyond the unprecedented spending, however, the campaign's greatest asset may have been the way the measure was written. The wording was brilliant. The yes vote was a lot easier than a no. Are you just. I fucking hate people like this. I've lost my filter. I said the fuck word. Okay, I fucking hate these people. They're like, well, it was the wording. It was the wording. Are you telling me that people are too fucking retarded to read? Are you telling me we got to take literacy tests before we vote? What the fuck is wrong with you? It will protect drivers' preference to be independent contractor with the flexibility to work when, where, and how long they want. Gig workers in California have been facing the most challenging era ever since the model merged. Navigating jobs upended by a pandemic, the economic downturn, social unrest, wildfires, blah, 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 blah. Moved to California from Kentucky. Gig economy starts working for Instacart, DoorDash, and Amazon Flex, and has driven for Uber and Lyft in prior years. $150 a day, down from $400. Okay. He lives in his car. Okay. That's unfortunate. Rents a Chevy Bolt for work. Okay. You're renting a Chevy Bolt for work. And then outright attack on democracy. This is not an attack on democracy. They voted on it. They voted on it. 58% of people said you're an independent contractor. I'm sorry that things aren't going so well for you, but they voted on it. Just because they voted the way you didn't want them to. It's like, I hate people like that. It's like, democracy is under threat. Sure is. Sure is, my guy. All right. Legislators passed the landmark law last year. Gig workers are employees that aim to give them wage guarantees and healthcare benefits, along with job protections and other issues. Other HR issues. Uber and other gig companies disputed the law applied to them and challenged its merits. They floated a number of arguments, including it would cause irreparable harm to their business models, which it would. Their entire business model is you're an independent contractor, you choose your hours, you work for us X amount of time, as much as you want. You can take whatever jobs you want with us, and we'll handle it. We'll pay you to do it. And then you're trying to say, well, I'm going to be an employee for you now, even though you didn't want me to be employed by your company. You didn't want me to be on a payroll. You wanted me to be a contractor. Converting all these contractors to payrolled individuals is just going to cause so many problems. I want to keep on going, but I have to take a quick bathroom break. So I will be back. I'm back. Okay. Let me get off that, I guess. All right. So we have a TechCrunch article, but what was this one? Uh, the Attorney General sued them, alleging they were misclassifying hundreds of thousands of workers. San Francisco drug judge ruled in the state's favor. Sided with the state this month. The order to give Uber and Lyft to come to compliance could take several months. They're working on appeal options. The court rulings are now moot because of the vote. California's voters agreed that instead of eliminating independent contract work, we should make it better. Soon, drivers in California will be guaranteed a minimum earning standard, will gain access to important benefits. The DoorDash CEO said Californians sided with drivers, recognizing the importance of flexible work and the critical need to extend new benefits and protections to drivers like Dashers. A Lyft policy chief and former Secretary of Transportation under Obama said, we absolutely want to engage with our friends in labor and to figure out whether there's a larger, more impactful way to move forward. Nothing would make us happier than to figure out how the voices of labor lock arms with us to figure this out. How to get the voice of labor to lock arms with us. Okay. Potential to legally codify the contract framework. I think Prop 22 has created the structure for us to discuss with leaders in other states and Washington. We think Prop 22 has created a model that can be replicated and scaled. The promised 120% of minimum wage, but the figure is calculated based on the driver's active time, meaning either on a trip or en route, and not on their time waiting to fare, potentially adding up to hours per week unpaid. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot more here, but that's the riders at the bottom that you just saw. I don't know. I think that's the guy they were talking about. I would play the video, but I don't want to deal with copyright. So they're proposing this as a blow to Uber and Lyft. But I think it's more of a blow to people that work for Uber and Lyft because a lot of them may no longer work for them. So this one, so it entitles them to a minimum wage, workers' compensation, and other benefits. So yeah, it just makes them employees, basically, without being employees, and that's probably why they're having issues in places getting it done. East Bay ruled that it would limit the power of the legislature. Rebuffed by the Supreme Court and referred to a lower court. Will be appealed, probably. Earlier in this year in the United Kingdom, Uber lost a legal battle over its employment classification decisions and ultimately reclassified tens of thousands of its drivers as workers. A decision was offered a range of benefits not previously granted. So yeah, it's just they're trying to get more benefits, but the Uber business model is not compatible with that framework. And it's like, I understand. I can't really blame the people that do all this gig economy stuff for trying to get as much as they can. But I don't know. It just seems like being mad that you have signed up to be an independent contractor for a megacorp and that they're not giving you what you want in return. I don't know. Someone says that it was a victory for gig workers. Um, yeah. This guy got a lot of people to talk to him. In what world does it make sense to allow companies to not provide benefits, overtime pay, and workers' compensation? These companies' CEOs make millions while their workers are struggling to pay bills. Thank God other spokes spent time to argue against you. There are very well laid out arguments as to why they make millions pay your people is complete red herring and a farce. The end consequence of what you're suggesting in AB5 is the collapse of the gig economy altogether, which at a state level would just be Uber and Lyft and the rest leaving the state altogether. Let's see how the new employees will like having 0 jobs and no opportunity to find the same kind of flexible work. It's a job killer, period. They've been unprofitable for years. Take a quick look at what the CEOs make. In a capitalist society, the market sets employee wages, and no one is forcing people to work for Uber and Lyft if they don't like the pay. Moreover, the cumulative amount in benefits Prop 22 provided to Uber and Lyft drivers is many times more than the millions that the CEOs of those companies make. That is a weak argument. Wow, this fucking argument is great. I'm loving it. It's fucking ridiculous. Uh, CEOs make lots of money. Why can't they pay their workers more? Because the CEO doesn't, in fact, pay the workers. All that's automated. Um, let's see. What is his net worth? 5.3 billion. Now, 12 million. It's like, yeah. So here's the thing, too, which is a lot of it is not all cash. So it's like, pay them with what? Stocks? Do they want to be paid in stocks? Do they want to be paid in these high value assets? I don't know. It's just the way that people get paid is very interesting, like the way that executives get paid. But yeah, this whole argument. Oh, I don't want to. They're not career jobs, only an entrance into the working world. Same thing with delivery for pizza. I had plenty of them early on that pushed me to get an education, better myself. Listen, it's like this isn't even a good argument. Okay, you can do really well in any position. Now, this is a good argument. Change the scene by providing a cheaper taxi fare for the average person to afford it. Taxis were basically a monopoly, charging whatever they wanted. The premise was to have people who wanted extra cash to use their vehicles as a part-time gig, not a full-time career. Now liberals like yourself want to provide benefits that most of these drivers already have and unionize them to boot. Make them basically a taxi company. So you're pushing these people out of their Ubers and back onto a bus system that is cheaper. Oh, I've voted Republican since I was 18. I bet you're 20. I bet you're fucking 20. Because you're making some pretty dumb arguments, my guy. Yeah, so this is a lot of fun just staring at these people arguing with each other. Oh, excuse me. Just another union power grab to result in jobs lost and higher costs for the consumers. Unions do not create jobs, they send them overseas. I don't know about this because I don't work for a union. Union work sounds miserable. I would rather I don't know. It's like what's my benefits for joining a union? I don't think I really get any. At least not now. Maybe there'll be a fucking moron that talks too much union. That'll help me pay the bills. They'll give me benefits to keep running my mouth and never leave the fucking house. That's what they'll do. They'll say, "Man, this guy, his voice is like perfect sleepy time ASMR, even when he's angry and cursing. It is the perfect way to lull me to sleep. Thank you. Please keep doing what you do. Talk about the boring things on the internet." So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm done. I think we've covered everything. Yeah, I think we've basically covered everything. So we'll do the long and short of it. California Proposition 22 made it so that Uber drivers and Lyft drivers and other rideshare people and delivery people aren't employees with employee benefits. They are gig workers, otherwise known as independent contractors. Because they are now considered independent contractors officially, they are entitled to the specific benefits given by Proposition 22 for their kind of independent contract work, which relates to rideshare and delivery in the gig economy. So, with that out of the way, we have people that are not doing so great for themselves, who don't understand how voting works, who believe that Uber bought out the ballot or something, and made it impossible for people who are retarded and can't read because they're illiterate, and there should be literacy tests for voters, I guess, because they can't read. Where the fuck was it? Uh Oops, I did not mean to pull that up. I meant to say Control F. Hello? Ah, there it is. Yes. The wording was brilliant. The yes vote was a lot easier than a no vote because the wording confused voters that much. If that's all it takes, I don't trust the voters. Look at that. Biden defeats Trump. This is an old article. So yeah, we have people living out their vans. They they rent cars to work, and they didn't ask themselves like, "Hey, maybe I should use my van to become an Eats driver." That's what I'd recommend. I'd say instead of getting a Bolt, this guy should go ahead. He should drive around. He doesn't have to get rid of his van. He can still live out of his van, but what he should do is he should get a loan for a used car that works well enough, and he should become uh an Eats driver and drive his van around to deliver food. But then when he's not driving his van around to deliver food, if he doesn't want to deliver food, he can go on and he can take his new car, drive around and deliver people to their destinations. That would be my recommendation. The Prop 22 has been ruled unconstitutional, and people are stupid and will argue about this forever. Literally 48 minutes ago. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Da, 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 da. All right. But that being said, I remain unconvinced that Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash drivers are not independent contractors. I think that Proposition 22 sounds great, honestly. Like the idea that they get some benefits, and it's kind of based on like hours worked, and it's calculated to be mostly fair. I think that's fine. I think that's perfectly fine. I think the idea that they're trying to say like, okay, if you're doing this kind of independent contract work, we're gonna pay you more than the minimum wage. That's gonna be your floor, your pay floor. And I just can't see anything wrong with that. And I hope that I honestly hope that Uber wins its appeal on this, because despite being evil megacorp, both Uber and Lyft and also DoorDash, despite being evil megacorp that wants to replace the human drivers with robots and does not care about this man. His name is Chase. Uber does not care about Chase. And probably doesn't even care that Chase is fucking bad mouthing them. Honestly, they will use his labor for their gain. So, regardless of that, I think that there's just a certain limit. Like, I think once you start trying to give independent contractors the exact same benefits as employees, you're gonna have issues. But I think that if Uber is fine with like benefits based on hours worked, and if you have someone that you work with regularly, they're still not an employee because you don't have the same level of control over them that an employer might. So they're still an independent contractor, but if you work with them enough and it's like they put a lot of time into doing work for you, I think it's fair that, like they should have the right to ask you for health benefits and stuff like that. And like I can't really say there's anything too wrong with Prop 22 saying that the benefits are enshrined in law essentially, but just part of me just says it should be like the person asking, not just I don't know. I don't know what I'm thinking. Like there's just some things where I also know that like there are just some things that you work for and it's just if you asked for health benefits, I know that there's like a high likelihood you wouldn't get them. So I think that actually having it in law might be a benefit of some sort, but I think it really depends on the kind of contract work, and I think it depends on the amount of time. So it's all very confusing. It's there's not really like a simple answer, but it's really fun to look at. And I at the end of the day, I just sort of say like, yeah, app-based drivers are contractors, and I don't see. I guess this violates California Constitution. It does. But I'm pretty sure it could be amended really easily, and we can fix this and have the California government step in and just sort of keep this. I think that it's better for the drivers, and I think they should keep this just because, unfortunately, I know that the only person this applies to is Evil Megacorp. So I don't know. It's that just creates its own issues. So I don't know. I'll just stop rambling. Thanks for listening. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.